Welcome. The New England Gilbert and Sullivan Society seeks to help not only our own members, but all Savoyards in the New England area by connecting people in need of G&S information, expertise, or materials with others who have what they need. With venues and performing groups temporarily shut down to the coronavirus pandemic, NEGAS is working to provide virtual programs based on the works of our favorite composer and lyricist. We are particularly taking the opportunity to feature material other than the operettas. Tonight we are taking some time with W. S. Gilbert's wonderful comic poems known as the Bab Ballads. As Jim Farron explains on the Gilbert and Sullivan Archive, the paper Fun was launched in 1861. Gilbert wrote a funny article and sent it to the paper along with a drawing on wood. The editors thought that it was so good that Gilbert was requested to write articles and supply drawings for as long as he can hold a pen in his hand. Although Gilbert believed that he had nothing more to say, under the pressure of deadlines, he found that even when he had nothing to say, he could say it in a column of verse or prose. For 10 years, Gilbert wrote articles and poems for Fun, of which he was also the drama critic. The pay was poor, £1 per column, either prose or verse. The cashier measured each contribution with a piece of string, and all contributors were paid on the same scale. Gilbert's poems, the Bab Ballads, greatly increased the popularity of Fun and justified its title. Gilbert, however, thought little of them. Most of them, he said, were composed hastily and under the discomforting necessity of having to turn out a quantity of lively verse on a certain day of each week. Bab, of course, comes from the signature Gilbert used at the bottom of the comic drawings. Bab was his childhood nickname from Babby, which was then a commonly used variant of baby. According to Dr. James Ellis in his scholarly edition of the Bab Ballads, the three Bohemian ones reflects Gilbert's own triple careers: dramatist, journalist, comic artist. It first appeared in Fun on 10 April 1869. Martha Birnbaum will read it for us.
There's a word that you probably don't know. I didn't know. It's called mortmain, M-O-R-T-M-A-I-N, and it means an inalienable possession of lands or buildings by an ecclesiastical order or a corporation. In other words, what you possess. So keep that in mind. And here we have the three Bohemian ones. A worthy man in every way was Mr. Jasper Portlebay. He was a merchant of renown. The firm was Portlebay and Brown. 3 sons he had, and only 3, but they were bad as bad could be. They spurned their father's righteous ways and went to races, balls, and plays. On Sundays they would laugh and joke. I've heard them bet, I've known them smoke. At whist they'd sometimes take a stand. These vices Jasper couldn't stand. At length the eldest son, called Dan, became a stock tragedian and earned his bread by ranting through Shakespearean parts as others do. The second, Donald, would insist on starting as a journalist and wrote amusing tales and scenes in all the monthly magazines. The youngest, Singleton his name, a comic artist he became and made an income fairly good by drawing funny heads on wood. And as they trod these fearful ways, these 3 misguided Portlebays, they drew not on their father's hoard, for Jasper threw them overboard. Yes, Jasper, grieving at their fall, renounced them one, renounced them all, and lived alone, so good and wise, at Zion Villa, Clapham Rise. By dint of work and skillful plan, old Jasper grew a wealthy man, and people said in slangy form that Jasper P. would cut up warm. He had no relative at all on whom his property could fall, except, of course, his wicked sons, those 3 depraved Bohemian ones. So he determined he would fain bequeath his wealth, despite mortmain, freeholds, Devonshire, stock and all, to some deserving hospital. When his intent was known abroad, excitement reigned in every ward, and with the well-experienced throng of operators, all went wrong. St. George's, Charing Cross and Guy's, and little Westminster likewise, Bartholomew's and Middlesex combined old Jasper to perplex. House surgeons, spite of patients' hints, bound headaches up in fractured splints. In measles, strap the spots that come with strips of plain diaculum. Rare leeches, skilled at fever beds, for toothache shared their patients' heads and cut their little fingers off if they complained of whooping cough. Their zeal grew greater day by day, and each did all that in him lay to prove his own pet hospital the most deserving of them all. Though Jasper P. could not but feel delighted at this show of zeal, when each in zeal exceeds the rest, one can't determine which is best. Interior, his reckless boys indulged in low bohemian joys. They sometimes smoked till all was blue and danced at evening parties too. The hospitals, conflicting sore, perplexed poor Jasper more and more. But ere Jasper could decide, poor charitable man, he died. And Donald, Singleton, and Dan now rolled in wealth despite his plan. So Donald, Dan, and Singleton, by dint of accident, have won. Vice triumphs here, but if you please, it's by exceptions such as these, from probability removed, that every standing rule is proved. By strange exceptions, virtue deigns to prove how paramount she reigns. A standing rule I do not know, that's been more oft established so. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very fun. So as we were starting to put together this program, we were hoping to have a variety of approaches to various poems. So next we have two very different renditions of the same one, To Phoebe. When it was published in Fun on 26 August of 1865, the title was, and Mark, that's your cue, A Good Joke to be sent to any lady whom you don't absolutely adore to, say, Phoebe. That's why I had it written out, because it doesn't read with good sense anyway. So Anne Ference is going to present it with the help of a special friend. First, though, Ben Morse will perform a musical setting, which was composed by Adrian Wells Beecham in, I believe, 1931. So we now have Ben.
Yes. There we are. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. I just wrote this out and performed it on my keyboard with the sound of a harpsichord because I just thought that sounded good. So we'll see if everybody likes it. And here we go. Gentle, modest little flower, sweet epitome of May, love me but for half an hour, love me, little Fay. Sentences so fiercely flaming in your shell-like little ear, I should always be exclaiming if I loved you, Phoebe dear. Smiles that thrill from any distance shed upon me while I sing. Please ecstaticize existence, love me, oh thou fairy thing. Words like these outpouring sadly you'd perpetually hear if I loved you fondly, madly, but I do not, Phoebe dear. There we go.
Hey, very nice.
Sorry for the confusion technologically. I will go back.
We did spot the cat.
Yes, good.
So,
That's the other royal cat.
yes. So now we're going to have Martha with the same poem, but an entirely different approach to it. Martha?
Well, it's Anne.
Anne, I'm sorry.
All
I'm
right.
so sorry.
Are you ready? We're going to go live with the video. Oh,
Yes.
Okay. To Phoebe, gentle, modest little flower, sweet epitome of May, love me, but for half an hour. Love me, ooh, love me, little Fay. Sentences so fiercely flaming in your tiny shell-like ear, I should always be exclaiming, if I loved you, Phoebe dear. Smiles that thrill from any distance shed upon me while I sing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Please ecstasize existence, love me, oh thou fairy thing. Words like these outpouring sadly, you'd perpetually hear if I loved you fondly, madly, but I do not. Oh, Phoebe dear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was
Bravo,
tremendous.
bravo.
My recitation is complete. Good job, Owl. Good job. It's fine. You did great.
So we go from owls to mermaids and cat ears. The Captain and the Mermaids first appeared in Fun on 7 November 1868, and Jim Cooper is going to give us a rollicking reading of it.
I sing a song, a legend of the seas, so hard a port upon your lee. A ship on starboard tack, she's bound upon a private cruise. This is the kind of spice I use to give a salt sea smack. There we are. Behold, on every afternoon, save in a gale or strong monsoon, great Captain Capel Cleggs, great morally, though rather short, sat in an open weather port and aired his shapely legs. And mermaids hung around in flocks on cable chains and distant rocks to gaze upon those limbs, for legs like those of flesh and bone are things not generally known to any merman Tims. But mermen didn't seem to care much time, as far as I'm aware, with Clegg's legs to spend, though mermaids swam around all day and gazed, exclaiming, "That's the way a gentleman should end." A pair of legs with well-cut knees and calves and ankles such as these, which we in rapture hail, are far more eloquent, it's clear, when clothed in silk and kerseymere than any nasty tail. And Clegg's, a worthy kind old boy, rejoiced to add to others' joy, and when the day was dry, because it pleased the lookers on, he sat from morn till night, though constitutionally shy. At first the mermen laughed, pooh, pooh, but finally they jealous grew and sounded loud recalls, but vainly. So these fishy males declared they too would clothe their tails in silken hose and smalls. They set to work, these watermen, and made their nether robes. But when they drew with dainty touch the kerseymere upon their tails, they found it scraped against their scales and hurt them very much. The silk, besides, with which they chose to deck their tails by way of hose, they never thought of shoon, for such a use was much too thin. It tore against the caudal fin and went in ladders soon. So they designed another plan. They sent their most seductive man this note to him to show. Our monarch sends to Captain Cleggs his humble compliments and begs he'll join him down below. We've pleasant homes below the sea. Besides, if Captain Cleggs should be, as our advices say, a judge of mermaids, he will find our lady fish of every kind inspection will repay. Good Capel sent a kind reply, for Capel thought he could descry an admirable plan to study all their ways and laws, but not their lady fish, because he was a married man. The merman sank, and the captain too, jumped overboard and dropped from view like a stone from catapult. And when he reached their merman's lair, he certainly was welcome there, but with what result? They didn't let him learn their law or make a note of what they saw or interesting mem. The ladyfish he couldn't find, but that, of course, he didn't mind. He didn't come for them. For though, when Captain Capel sank, the mermen, drawn in double rank, gave him a hearty hail, yet when secure of Captain Cleggs, they cut off both his lovely legs and gave him such a tail. When Captain Cleggs returned aboard his blithesome crew, convulsive roared to see him altered so. The Admiralty did insist that he, upon the half-pay list, immediately should go. In vain declared the poor old salt, it's my misfortune, not my fault, with tear and trembling lip. In vain poor old Capel begged and begged. A man must be completely legged who rules a British ship. So spake the stern First Lord aloud. He was a wag, though very proud, and must rejoice to say, you're only half a captain now, and so, my worthy friend, I vow, you'll only get half pay.
Thank you. The next one is going to be To the Terrestrial Globe, which struck me as appropriate given the current circumstances, though it debuted 145 years ago on 30 September 1865. It's in some ways rather a deep subject, but I have given it an absurdly simple animation.
Roll on, thou ball, roll on. Through pathless realms of space, roll on. What though I'm in a sorry case? What though I cannot meet my bills? What though I suffer toothache's ills? What though I swallow countless pills? Never you mind, roll on. Roll on, thou ball, roll on. Through seas of inky air, roll on. It's true I have no shirts to wear. It's true my butcher's bill is due. It's true my prospects all look blue. But don't let that unsettle you. Never you mind, roll on. It rolls on.
So now Michael Bloom of Maryland is joining us to read Gentle Alice Brown from the pages of Fun on 23 May 1868. Michael?
Okay, you got me? There you go. There we go. Gentle Alice Brown was published, as Jackie said, when Gilbert was only 31 years old, and includes many of his famous conceits, including baby snatching, check forging, piracy, parental bullying, and rattling off a list of crimes committed. This poem is the last one that Gilbert included in his first Bab Ballads publication, a collection of his fun poetry published in 1869. So we think of Gilbert as an old fogey, but he was rather a young man now when he wrote this. And I shall now read it, I hope, dramatically. Gentle Alice Brown. It was a robber's daughter, and her name was Alice Brown. Her father was the terror of a small Italian town. Her mother was a foolish, weak, and amiable old thing, but it isn't of her parents that I'm going for to sing. As Alice was a-sitting at her window-sill one day, a beautiful young gentleman he chanced to pass that way. She cast her eyes upon him, and he looked so good and true that she thought I could be happy with a gentleman like you. And every morning past her house, that cream of gentlemen, she knew she might expect him at 10:15. A salter in the custom house, it was his daily road. The custom house was 15 minutes' walk from her abode. But Alice was a pious girl who knew it wasn't wise to look at strange young saucers with expressive purple eyes, so she sought the village priest, to whom her family confessed, the priest by whom their little sins were carefully assessed. "Oh, Holy Father," Alice said, "'twould grieve you, would it not, to discover that I was the most disreputable lot. Of all unhappy sinners, I'm the most unhappy one." The padre said, "Whatever have you been and done and gone?" "I've helped Mamma to steal a little kitty from its dad. I've assisted dear Papa in cutting up a little lad. I've planned a little burglary and forged a little check, and slain a little baby for the coral on its neck." The worthy pastor heaved a sigh and dropped a silent tear and said, "You mustn't judge yourself too heavily, my dear. It's wrong to murder babies, little corals for to fleece, but things like these one expiates at £half-a-crown apiece. Girls will be girls, you're very young and flighty in your mind. Old heads upon young shoulders we must not expect to find. We mustn't be too hard upon these little girlish tricks. Let's see, 5 crimes and half-a-crown, exactly 12 and 6. "Oh, Father," little Alice cried, "your kindness makes me weep. You do these little things for me so singularly cheap. Your thoughtful liberality I never can forget. But oh, there is another crime I haven't mentioned yet. A pleasant-looking gentleman with pretty purple eyes I've noticed at my window as I sat a-catching flies. He passes by it every day, as certain as can be. I blush to say I've winked at him, and he has winked at me." "For shame," said Father Paul. "My erring daughter, on my word, this is the most distressing news that I have ever heard. Why, naughty girl, your excellent papa has pledged your hand to a promising young robber, the lieutenant of his band. This dreadful piece of news will pain your worthy parents so. They are the most remunerative customers I know. For many, many years they've kept starvation from my doors. I never knew a family so criminal as yours. The common country folk in this insipid neighborhood have nothing to confess. They're so ridiculously good, and if you marry anyone respectable at all, why, you'll reform, and what will then become of Father Paul?" The worthy priest, he up and drew his cowl upon his crown, and started off in haste to tell the news to Robber Brown, to tell him how his daughter, who was now for marriage fit, had winked upon a sorter who reciprocated it. Good Robber Brown, he muffled up his anger pretty well. He said, "I have a notion, and that notion I will tell. I will nab this gay young sorter, terrify him into fits, and get my gentle wife to chop him up into little bits." I've studied human nature, and I know a thing or two, though a girl may fondly love a living gent, as many do. A feeling of disgust upon her senses there will fall when she looks upon his body, chopped, particularly small. He traced that gallant sorter to a still suburban square. He watched his opportunity and seized him unaware. He took a life preserver and he hit him on the head. And Mrs. Brown dissected him before she went to bed. And pretty little Alice grew more settled in her mind. She never more was guilty of a weakness of the kind, until at length good Robber Brown bestowed her pretty hand on the promising young robber, the lieutenant of his band.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can see it on the stage. Elaine Crane sends a charming video of her singing a musical setting of The Way of Wooing. Evidently, the 1872 version of Happy Arcadia included this poem as a solo number, but this version was composed a few years ago by a local musician.
Yet nobody came to claim her.
was lovely. Our next Bab is Thomas Winterbottom Hance, which was published in Fun on 26 October 1867. The title was given as Thomas Winterbottom Hance and Monsieur Pierre, and had illustrations of them both. There is a certain go ye heroes, go and die air about it, as Juliet Cunningham will now show.
There on merry England's bold expanse, no swordsman ever could compare with Thomas Winterbottom Hance. The dauntless lad could fairly hew a silken handkerchief in twain, divide a leg of mutton to and this, without unwholesome strain, on whole hap sheep with cunning trick his sabre sometimes he'd employ, no bar of lead, however thick, had terrors for the stalwart boy. At Dover daily he'd prepare to hew and slash behind before, which aggravated Monsieur Pierre, who watched him from the Calais shore. It caused good Pierre to swear and dance. The sight annoyed and vexed him so. He was the bravest man in France. He said so, and he ought to know. Regardez donc ce cochon gros, ce polisson, oh sacré bleu, son sabre, son plomb et ce gigot. Comme cela m'ennuie, enfin mon Dieu, il sait que les foulards de soie give no retaliating whack. Les gigots morts n'ont pas de quoi, les blonds don't never eat you back. But every day the zealous lad cut lead and mutton, more, and every day poor Pierre, half mad, shrieked loud defiance from his shore. Hance had a mother, poor and old, a simple, harmless village dame, who crowed and clapped as people told of Winterbottom's rising fame. She said, "I'll be upon the spot to see me Tommy Cyber play." And so she left her leafy cot and walked to Dover in a day. Pierre had a doting mother who had heard of his defiant rage. His ma was nearly 82 and rather dressy for her age. At Hance's doings every morn, with sheer delight his mother cried, and Monsieur Pierre's contemptuous scorn filled his mamma with proper pride. But Hance's powers began to fail. His constitution was not strong, and Pierre, who once was stout and hale, grew thin from shouting all day long. Their mother saw them pale and wan. Maternal anguish tore each breast, and so they met to find a plan to set their offerings' minds at rest. Said Mrs. Hance, "Of course all shrinks from bloodshed, ma'am, as you're aware, but still they'd better meet our thinks." "Assurément," said Madame Pierre. A sunny spot in sunny France was hit upon for this affair. The ground was picked by Mrs. Hance. The stakes were pitched by Madame Pierre. Said Mrs. H, "You're what you see. Go in, me noble boy, and win." "En garde, mon fils," said Madame P. "Allons, go on, en garde, begin." Loud sneered the doughty man of France. "Ho, ho, ha, 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 ha." "The French for pish," said Thomas Hance. Said Pierre, "L'anglais, monsieur, pour moi," said Mrs. H. "Come, 1, 2, 3, we're sitting here to see all fair." "C'est magnifique," said Madame P. "Mais parbleu, ce n'est pas la guerre." "Je scorn un faux si lâche que vous," said Pierre, the doughty son of France. "I fought not coward foe like you," said our undaunted Tommy Hance. "The French for pooh," our Tommy cried. "L'anglais pour bah," the Frenchman crowed. And so, with undiminished pride, each went on his respective road.
Thank you. That one I can also see on a stage. So our last selection tonight is The Ghost to His Lady Love. It first appeared in the pages of Fun on 14 August 1869. It's not a typical Bab ballad and is not part of the numbered series, but it does seem rather related to the nocturnal celebrations of a certain portrait gallery that many of us are familiar with. Mark Liebold has created an interesting paper animation of the poem, and it is showcased in a wooden shadow box that he built, which is a representation of the Academy of Music Theater in Northampton, Massachusetts. So here is Mark's video.
Fair phantom come, the moon's awake, the owl hoots gaily from its brake, the blithesome bat-a-wings come soar to yonder silent clouds, the ether teems with peopled shrouds, will fly the lightsome spectre crowds, thou cloudy, clammy thing. Though there are others, spectre mine, with eyes as hollow, quite as thine, that thrill me from above, whose lips are quite as deathly pale, whose voices rival thine in wail, when riding on the joyous gale, they breathe sepulchral love. Still, there's a modest charm in thee, that causes thee to seem to be more pure than others are, though rich in calico and bone. Thou art not beautiful alone, for thou art also good, my own, and that is better far. United we'll defy alarms, a death time in each other's arms will pass, and fear no dearth of jollity. When Morpheus flits, or mortal eyes will whet our wits, and frighten people into fits, who did us harm on earth. Come essence of a slumbering soul, throw off thy maidenly control, unshroud thy ghastly face, give me thy foggy lips divine, and let me press my mist to thine, enfold thy nothingness in mine, in one long damp embrace. She does.
Thank you. So that concludes our program of the Bab Ballads for tonight. I would invite everybody who wishes to unmute themselves and turn on their videos and join us in the lobby. Thank you for coming.
Yay.
I'd like to thank you very much. I think that was very entertaining, and a lot of work went into that.
Yes, thank you, Jackie, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to have so many people from a range of locations participating.
Oh, we didn't participate, we just watched.
Well, we need an audience to do this.
A lot of work went into this evening. Thank you.
Those of you who have met me and or my husband have heard me say that the family motto has become anything worth doing is worth overdoing. That was supposed to be a really simple little paper animation, and it got more and more carried away. But we had a lot of fun doing it.
Mark.
The doors opening at the beginning, you fortunately can't see me sitting literally under the table pulling strings.
I can
thought
see
was
it. I
wonderfully
can
done.
actually see
I
it.
thought it was wonderfully done there,
It was
Jackie and
amazing.
Yes.
Mark. That was very good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
He
That
built
was really great.
Worth doing.
the shadow box a number of years ago, and it normally houses the production of Yeoman of the Guard that I directed there a number of years ago. But it's now got two specters who are at the moment have their backs turned to one another rather dramatically. It hangs on our bedroom wall. So
Okay.
be thinking about what to bring next time. We've got a range of animations, so let's do some more.
I want to thank everybody. It was terrific. Everybody was great. Everybody had a wonderful style, wonderful energy, and wonderful verve, and I enjoyed every single one of them.
Yes. Here,
Yeah, I agree.
Here, here.
Yes, yes, everyone was great.
I do have to point out, however, that you missed one really great cue early in the presentation. You didn't roll into the owl and the pussycat.
Oh. When Anne was auditioning puppets, she actually does also have a pussycat, and
Thank you, Miss Jackie, for this opportunity. Yeah, we had fun. We made a little video for Jackie with all the different hand puppets.
And I sent it to a dear friend of mine who is, well, I would say the biggest GNS geek I know, but I know a lot of GNS geeks. And I'm like, what, okay, we've got puppets. And he knows that this has been the ongoing joke of we're going to do a show with puppets. And I'm like, what could we do with puppets? He's like, they're all about cannibalism and murder, and who wants to do that with puppets? So we found one that worked. And then, of course, two people, literally in like 2 minutes, I had two different people, Anne and Ben said, let's do this. I didn't realize that of the music that I had, one of them was that poem. So, but I loved having two entirely different treatments of it.
Yes. Yes.
It was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
I'm sorry, I have to leave this, and thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
I want to tell you a little story about. I read my poem, the Three Bohemian Lads, to a friend of mine who's a very good performer in his own right, but he didn't know anything about Gilbert and Sullivan, unfortunately. So I read it, and after I read it, he said, "There's a dark side to that, isn't there?" I said, "My dear boy, you have just scratched the surface."
I read a couple an open mic, and they sort of said, "Why did you choose those?" I've been following along in my Bab Ballad book and noticing a few words that change, but it helps me when someone's talking, yes, to visualize, to figure out what they're saying if I can read it as well.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing that closed captioning would be nice for, because
Oh, I loved what Elaine Crane did.
Worked very well where it was used.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
Well, as Dr. Ellis points out in his scholarly edition, the words did change as Gilbert published them, and they were republished. Some of the words changed, or a verse would be left out, or a reference would alter. So there is no set version of some of these.
Oh, and I thought this was the authoritative version, like Oxford and stuff.
It is.
That's the one I have.
Big one.
James Ellis's volume is the one that has more of the Bab illustrations than any of the others, I think.
Yes, it looks like this.
Well, that's the reprint.
That's the earlier version of.
Yes, I don't have the first edition signed by the author.
No.
Actually,
this is the second printing, 1980, just a day or two ago.
So
Any of you happen to see the Cape Town GNS production of Trial by Jury that's streaming now?
No. Oh.
They did some nice word changes because they had a female counsel for the defense. She sang
Oh,
the
I've
first
seen
lines
that.
of the defendant.
thank you for reminding me that was playing. I do want to watch that.
Counsel for the defense?
Yes, they had a female counsel for the
Well,
defense as well
Julia,
as
you were the female
I
counsel.
played the counsel for the plaintiff.
Oh,
I've seen
yes,
it in
they
several
interpolated.
places.
They interpolated counsel for the defense,
Ah, very interesting.
and they
When
gave
you
her
have
several
many
of the
women.
defendant's lines.
Too many women, not enough men. You have to
Which is the
improvise.
state of most of them,
Well,
and most
not
Broadway.
enough female parts.
Yeah. Flowers of Utopia, I've seen it done in.
Which are problematic on a different level, but
But it's worth hooking into the Cape Town GNS if you are interested in that. It runs 40 minutes. And it's a
that's
modern
linked
dress.
on the SavoyNet, MeGas page on Facebook.
As I was looking for it and I couldn't find it to post a review.
Okay.
But I tried all the others. I didn't try NeGas. Shame on me.
Shame on you.
And I liked your Phoebe, the Phoebe cutout. With Phoebe's at our bird bath, I recognized it instantly. Funny, I had never linked the name Phoebe with the bird Phoebe before.
Well, this was Miss Jackie's genius in casting owl. Yeah, there was, now if I were a paper animator, I would be able to make the Phoebe do its little up and down tail thing like Phoebes do. But,
You do it with wires.
yeah, but only 2 hands.
Yeah, that we had 4.
I would have needed an assistant to do the little Phoebe tail, which would have been fun. So yeah, I'm glad you recognized her. Yep. I actually haven't seen these around here, but I've seen them other places. Yeah. Just look at the little tail.
I don't see any of the birds I know out here. I haven't figured out what a lot of the strange birds in California are at the coast. I got a book. I'll just have to try and match. I have to take photographs and then look in the book. It's the only way I think I can do it.
That works well.
Yeah. We do have hummingbirds when the cats nearby don't eat them.
I have a question for Michael Bloom. Is that a backdrop? Is that a screen that with all those characters on there? Or what is
it's a montage photograph. It's a photograph of the wonderful hall, Falvey Hall. Laurie Weisbrot would know that. I think Peter Zavon as well. And where Erica Rome and I produced Baltiquirts when we were allowed to, and I put above it all the little cartoons of the various Savoy operas that I had in one of my many artistic files, and to sort of give it a thematic. And of course, we're grieving over the lack of Baltiquirt because of the COVID. We've canceled 2, and we're just hoping to return in 2021 down here in Baltimore. So you know what it's like.
Oh yes.
But that's our hall. That's Falvey Hall on the MICA campus and the Maryland Institute for what does MICA stand for? Maryland Institute for Creative Arts, I think.
I look forward to being there as soon as,
There's Erica.
as, soon as we
There's
can
Erica.
Maryland Institute College of Art.
Maryland Institute College of Art. That's it. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. It's
Drew a
wonderful.
blank on that one.
I love it.
Jackie, if you feel that you can't do crude and nasty killings of puppets, just go look at what they do with puppets in Avenue Q.
Oh, I know. This particular friend is a
Gay
little
naked
more
puppet
squeamish
sex.
than I am.
Yeah, we had COVID. I didn't happen to be in this one production, this last one, because Ron's brother was dying and everything. But we were doing Grand Duke, and we usually perform for 3 weekends. We got 1 weekend in. Luckily, I got to see it because I was about to travel out to Albuquerque, where his brother was, and that was the only weekend. The venue shut down right then and there, so couldn't do it.
That we know about.
You'll be all set for the Grand Duke discussion next month, right?
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Jackie.
they have the sets and everything. They just can't do it again.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say goodbye. Jackie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you
Very
for joining us.
Juliet,
you,
you're
Paul.
looking very elegant.
Oh, thank you. I was
I've never-
dressing like Pierre's mother.
I'm not a
I'm not
member
nearly
of
82. I'm a bit away from that, but I was rather dressy for my age.
Well, it said 92 in my Bab Ballads book. I figured 82 made more sense.
I'm not a knee gas person, but I was born in Boston, so I guess that makes me
We'll
honorary.
take you. We'll keep you. So, well, thank you all for coming, and watch the NEGAS Facebook page for information about the upcoming Grand Duke discussion, and then the event in November, and then in December we are probably going to do a program of Sullivan's Christmas music and Victorian Christmas music in general, possibly. Details to be determined, obviously. And we will continue with our program of Gilbert and Sullivan with cats as events allow. So everybody take care, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jackie.